Streets Month. So we're glad to have our street director, Kenny Knudsen, here. Kenny is the director of street transportation. Kenny's worked the city for 22 years and been in just about every department. So facilities, public transit, public works. He also has served development services, some vertical work. So there's not a lot Kenny hasn't done at the city. So obviously very grateful for all of your 22 years, Kenny. You've also been stationed in southern Spain, which I thought was cool, serving as a naval officer. So, and you have 2 children, right?
Sorry, I didn't mute myself. Three children.
That's what I thought, 3. All right, and he's of course a Wildcat, but also has some ASU blood with a master's degree. So he's got a little bit of goodness in him, you know. Anyway, Kenny, take it away. We'll let you get going on your presentation. I know everybody's really busy. So.
All right, I'm going to try my best to share here, so you guys can follow along with me as I'm going through the presentation. Hopefully that comes up. Let me know. Thumbs up. Good. All right. Perfect. So as Chuck so eloquently introduced me, I've been with the city for almost 22 years, and it's been quite an adventure. Had a wonderful time working in a lot of different departments. Hopefully, a little feedback there. I think somebody might need to mute. But I've been now in this role as the director a little over 3 years, and it has been a wonderful time, a wonderful experience. I'll tell you, it's been a very, very demanding and stress-filled job, but it also is very, very worthwhile because of the work that we do. So, you know, hopefully you got a little bit between Chuck's intro and my own little bit intro there, a little bit more about myself and where I stand. But one thing I kind of wanted to relay today is kind of where I am looking, where the future of our street transportation department is. What is our vision? And some of you might have seen a little bit something like this similar before, but when I talk about my vision, I want to make sure, well, vision is one of those things that really shouldn't be changing. It should be something that can grow or continue to be worked with, but stay constant through it. So I wanted to make sure everybody kind of who may have seen this before is reminded of it. But if you haven't seen or talked with me, know kind of where my thoughts are and what our mindset is as far as leading the street transportation department into the future. So the first thing about my vision, it's kind of 4 faceted areas. The first one is focused in our mission. And you might say, well, that makes sense. But I will tell you, in a political organization and with things happening, recessions and things like that, it is very easy for our department to get off mission, to focus in on things that aren't just about keeping our streets safe and reliable for everyone. And so that has been one thing I've been very much focused in on, is to ensure that whatever we do going forward is focused in on us keeping on our mission, so we don't get off topic into an area where, you know, we're our streets and our network and our transportation system that we have here is suffering because of that. The second part of that is community engagement. I very much stress that we are a public sector organization. We do not exist except for the fact that the public needs us to exist. And so because of that, we need to make sure that everything we do is about ensuring that the public is involved and advocate and supportive of what we are out there doing. Otherwise, we're out there doing projects just for ourselves. Yes, we want to make sure we have professional focus. We want to have engineering focus of what we're doing. But I believe we can bring our community along with us to make it a stronger, a better, a greater project at the end of the day. The third part is innovation. And this, obviously, everybody understands this piece, is that we have to continually to improve and evolve as we go through and delivering our projects and our services to make sure that we are taking advantage of technology, taking advantage of new processes, procedures that are out there to help us do our jobs better. And we just have to understand that that's just part of what we do. And I want to make sure that's a part of our culture here in the Street Transportation Department. And then finally is partnerships. And this is about that we cannot do things on our own. And that could be when we're talking about the cities. We're the 5th largest city in the country, but we're surrounded by all the cities that make up the metropolitan area. We have a large freeway network that runs through our city. We have pockets of county islands. We also have community groups, neighborhood groups, business groups that we work with. And I would even point to the partnership we have with the ACEC and the strong relationship we have there. And I wanted to really highlight that and really thank ACEC for being there for us and being a part of what we do. Because without that, I will tell you right now, we couldn't do what we need to do for the residents and the businesses of Phoenix. And so it's being able to understand that even though we have 600 people in my department, we cannot do it all on our own. We need the partnerships in the industry, both on the architect and engineering side, but also in the construction side to make sure we can keep our focus on delivering the quality projects, programs, and services for the residents of Phoenix. So I'm going to talk to, as I go through this program a little bit, I've just talked a little bit about some of the initiatives we have going on, and then kind of share some of the things that are going on as well with our department beyond some of those things. So the first thing I just wanted to highlight was, you may know, and as we get ready in the next couple of weeks to kick off again, is our getting ready to finish up our 5-year, $200 million program for accelerated pavement maintenance across our city. And to refresh your memories, back in 2018, our city council said, we're going to advance you $200 million in T2050 transportation 2050 revenues, so you can do more on pavement maintenance on our roadways. This is one of those areas where we got behind during the recession and some of the decisions we made. And so that kept our focus off of maintaining our streets. So over 3.5 years, this is the totals we've been able to accomplish across our 5,000-mile network of city streets. And we have about 1.5 years left of the program. We hopefully will get done earlier than that. But so March to November or March to October-ish is when we're going to be really hot and heavy on our paving projects. But so I'll ask you to use patience and caution out there and understanding as you see those cones and barricades up there to make our roadways look smoother and safer for everyone. The next thing I wanted to just highlight is something you probably heard about and heard me talk about a little bit, is our Cool Pavement program. And this is something in the beginning months of the pandemic, we sought an opportunity to be able to do a pilot program to put cool pavement product on our city streets. We selected 8 neighborhood streets as well as 1 parking lot to be able to test this out to see how it would perform. We partner with ASU to be able to evaluate the results of that. And what we found was a 10 to 12 degree difference in the surface temperatures of treated and untreated cool pavement streets. And then also the air temperature above there was seeing reductions as well. So that really has an opportunity to be able to reduce our urban heat island impact the more we have of this out there on our city streets. And one thing you may or may not have heard is that us just doing that 9 segment pilot program, that took us to being the largest cool pavement demonstration city in the entire country and second in the world, behind I think only Japan. And so because of the great success we had with the results of that and the great reaction we've gotten from both the public, the city council on this, is we actually took the pilot off the pilot program, and it is now an annual program. So right now we're looking and identifying 9 additional neighborhood streets that we will be doing this program and for coming up between now and the summer. And then that will be something we'll repeat every single year to be able to help address our urban heat island impact. And I will also tell you, we believe it will also have a long-lasting impact on the health and the life cycle of our streets as well, by keeping our streets and the asphalt cooler, and also potentially reducing the amount of treatments the time frame in between treatments once we put the cool pavement on there. Cool corridors is another area where we've gotten a lot of council support, and this is the idea that we know there's a lot more people out there biking and walking and interacting with our streets when they aren't in a car. And so we wanted to be able to make sure we have safe corridors, cool corridors in those areas where we don't have natural shade or structured shade to be able to keep people cool. So this is something we're in the process of identifying 9 locations across the city, 9 1-mile segments or a combination of segments to make 1 mile in each council district, is to plant 1,800 trees total across the city every single year, and then bring in irrigation as well. So we're really focused in on those high active transportation corridors. And this is where we're hoping that this will actually transform how our streets look and make sure that they feel safer, more comfortable for people who want to seek an alternative transportation mode. This is something I would just want to touch on briefly is active transportation. So as you've probably seen, we have our first on the picture on the slide is our first 2-way protected bike lane in Phoenix. It's on 3rd Avenue just north of the downtown area. We've been working on parking protected bike lanes. We've been doing buffered bike lanes through our pavement maintenance program. We also have been investing in our canal system by making multi-use pathways on there. So, but in order, as we've been doing more and more to be able to address active transportation, we know we needed to have a coordinated and strategic approach to do more in the future. Some of you might be familiar with our bicycle master plan that we last updated and had approved back in 2014. That was very focused in on projects and implementing projects. Our active transportation plan is a evolution, understanding that people are using more than bikes. They're using mobility devices, scooters, e-bikes, walking, jogging. They're using a lot of different modes or ways to be able to get around in an active transportation environment. So our active transportation plan is kicking off right now, where it's going to be focusing on policy and guidelines to help direct our own efforts in the city, in the strength transportation department, but also as we work with private development, because we know development has not been slowing down, and to be able to help them leverage their investments to be able to make our streets more conducive to active transportation. And as part of this active transportation plan that's kicking off, we're going to have a lot of public engagement opportunities as well, because we want to hear the input of people out on the city streets and how they interact with the streets and how we can make sure the active transportation plan works for them. So that is a great kind of segue to the next topic, which is roadway safety. And we have been working very, very hard in the topic of roadway safety for many, many years. And I'm going to dive a little bit into this topic just because it's so important to what we're doing right now. But we've been really focused because the mayor and council so graciously, unanimously supported us to provide direction and approval to move forward with the development of a road safety action plan. This is because of the trends we've seen here in Phoenix, but those aren't just trends just in Phoenix. We've seen them across the nation, across the state, in these deaths on our roadways and fatalities on our roadways going on the increase. But Phoenix is not is a leader in this area, and not for how we want to be a leader as a city. But I would mention that just last week, our council voted overwhelmingly to support a resolution to make City of Phoenix a Vision Zero city, which, if you don't know about the Vision Zero, or if you're not familiar with that, that's about the idea of one fatality is too many. It's really taking seriously approach to make sure we reduce and eliminate serious injuries and fatalities on our roadways. So a little bit more about that. The idea behind here is and this is going to go into a little of my public service announcement here, why is this plan needed? So when you talk about the issue of roadway safety, there's an increases in collisions, and those result in serious injuries and fatalities. And it's, like I said, it's not something new that's occurring here and around here. These statistics that I'm showing up on the slide here are from the National Highway Safety Administration for total average fatalities from 2017 to 2019. So if you know anything about traffic fatality numbers too, you know that it take a while to come out. They get scrubbed and they get analyzed. And when they finally get reported out, it does take 12 to 18 months typically. So that's from a nationwide perspective. These are the most recent numbers, but you see over those 3 years, Phoenix had the 3rd highest number of roadway fatalities, behind only Los Angeles and Houston, which are both cities that are larger than Phoenix. But we are the 5th largest city, so that we are worse in roadway fatalities than some of the cities that are larger than us as well. So if you want to take the analysis a little bit further, I just want to cover some of the data if you hadn't seen this, but when it looks to, this is data about our fatalities involving bicyclists, pedestrians, and vehicles. And on the vehicles, I should note that those include fatalities both for drivers and passengers in those vehicles. So 2019, you see that we had 99 motor vehicle related fatalities and 72 pedestrian related fatalities, and then 6 involving bicyclists. But then you look at 2020, even though during the pandemic we had lockdowns and sheltering in place and virtual meetings like we're having today and travel restrictions, even from during that time, you saw that we had a 14% increase in motor vehicle fatalities year over year. We had a slight decrease in pedestrian fatalities and a slight decrease in bicyclist fatalities as well. But what was really alarming is when you look as we were coming out of the pandemic and we're still dealing with this kind of new normal, however you want to call it, you see that we actually had a dramatic increase in pedestrian fatalities and total motor vehicle fatalities and total fatalities overall. We had a 25% increase in total fatalities from 2020 to 2021, a total of 232 traffic fatalities during that time, and a 41% increase in pedestrian related fatalities. So this tells you why it's such an important topic and why we need to be focused in on it. So, and this is also why your input is needed and the input of our community is needed. Safety affects everyone. And as I mentioned earlier about my vision for the department, it includes a focus on our mission, and that important to note that our street transportation department's mission statement, as you can read up here, is providing for the safe, efficient, and convenient movement of people and goods across the city. So the first thing we mentioned in there is safety. So safety is first in what we were focusing as a mission. So this is very much in line, focus on roadway safety in doing this. So we're welcoming participation in a number of ways. So part of this is to inform you what's going on, but another one is to be able to, if you want to be able to provide input, we're going to give you the ability to provide input as well on our road safety action plan. So our website is live. It's updated. It'll be updated throughout the entire project. Phoenix.gov/road safety. You can find out everything that's going on with this effort. But the key feature of this right now is our MetroQuest survey. It's the centerpiece of our public engagement, and you can access it through the website. You can see it in the red shaded bordered area. It's more than just a survey. It's an interactive tool to provide specific feedback about our concerns and about your concerns, I'm sorry. And then the information request from you is needed for us to help and make informed decisions about our strategies we will implement for Phoenix to make our roadways safer. So this right here, this survey is found on our project website. You can access it in both English and Spanish. And then this is actually the intro page to the MetroQuest survey. Participants can navigate back and forth through these pages. You can see between the standard survey, priority rankings, map markers, and wrap up. So this will take about 8 to 10 minutes to complete, depending on how detailed you want to get in and what involvement and input you want to provide. But the one thing I'd really want to highlight is this map marker screen, which is kind of an interactive tool that you can drop in your driving concerns, a lighting concern, somewhere around school zone safety, and you have the ability to be able to interact with the map and drop a marker in there and actually provide input and comments about why you put that marker there. So you can have your own detailed comments about those areas. We'll take all that feedback in as part of this to be able to make sure we have a good comprehensive approach to safety. The one thing I'll mention is that this survey tool is open until the end of this month, so the 28th, and then that's our first round of community engagement on this. But before I move off the topic of roadway safety, I just want to make sure you understand a couple things that are coming forward. So our focus right now is working on data to be able to analyze where we have traffic concerns and why we have traffic concerns, and then get the community engagement to get their ideas and their input about how to focus our efforts. And then we're going to come out with actually strategies to be able to invest in improvements out there to make our roadways safer. And then those strategies are something that we're going to take back eventually in the fall timeframe to our council for them to be able to give us feedback and approve ultimately how we're going to make real investments in making our streets safer. And anybody who's familiar with the 4 E's of traffic safety, evaluation, engineering, education, and enforcement, those strategies will be focused in all those 4 areas as we move forward with the plan. So let me move quickly, if I take a sip here, and talking a little bit about revenues, because we're going from road safety, that's going to require a lot of investment and be able to make improvements on our roadways to make them safer. So it's important that we have revenues identified to be able to help us to do this. So I wanted to talk just generally about what we're seeing on the Herf Gas Tax Revenue side for what's coming into the city of Phoenix. Some of you may be familiar with it. When we were in the initial months of the pandemic, we had a revised revenue forecast that was done kind of out of a normal, abnormal cycle. We didn't usually get an updated forecast in the summer, but we did get one because people were concerned that, hey, we want to make sure if there's a significant reduction in revenues, we need to trim back now in case there are, we need to be able to pull back things so we don't, we stay within our budgets. So in that time frame back in 2020, summer 2020, we got a revised 5-year core forecast that was to 2025. That caused us to trim about $40 million out of our 5-year capital improvement program. So we had to factor that into when we submitted our capital improvement program. We had to pull out $40 million, and that's $40 million of programs, existing projects that were in there. So that definitely was something that pulled back from what we were planning to do. But one thing that I will tell you is a little bit frustrating from my side is we kept on monitoring the Herf revenues that were coming in on a month-to-month basis, and they weren't near as negative as we initially thought. So as we saw the revenue numbers looking better, we're like, give us a revised forecast. So luckily, back in February 2021, so about a year ago, we got a revised forecast that brought back in about 36 million of those $40 million in forecasted revenues. So unfortunately, we weren't able to incorporate into our CIP until the updates we did just back at the end of 2021. So we put that money back into the CIP, but we've been continuing to monitor the Herf gas tax revenues. And so the good news is we just got some forecasts, some unofficial forecasts last week, and we were able to, it looks like we've added another $21 million to our 5-year forecast through just through 2025. And to give you some perspective, our annual Herf revenues last year for the city of Phoenix were $142 million. So that is a bulk majority of what we rely on to be able to do our daily operations and capital projects out there. So $21 million over basically the next 4 years, because I say it's in the 5-year, but it's through 2025, is a strong number to be able to help us do more out on our streets. And so I'm also hopeful that will continue to increase as we see the economy continue to restore and shed kind of the effects of COVID. But obviously we've got a lot of other world situations that are happening right now that are going to potentially impact the fuel pumps as well. So let's move on to the T2050. And so that's another area, a major source of revenue for the Street Transportation Department. And this is an area where we've seen some great news and trends in our revenues. And so if you don't know about this, the T2050 or Proposition 104 revenues come from a 0.7 cent transaction tax on purchases in Phoenix. And so street transportation gets about 13.8% of those revenues on an annual basis. So our previous 5-year forecast, which was 2022 through 2026, was about $212 million that we were going to get in from revenues from T2050. Our updated 5-year forecast that we just got last week, which is unofficial right now, is up to $239 million, so an increase of $28 million. So the good news is those revenues trends from both T2050 and from the gas tax are showing positive. And just to put in perspective from a T2050 side, our annual revenues we got last year in T2050 was about $36 million. So $28 million more over a 4 or 5 year period is essentially adding in another year, almost another year of revenues into it. So great news from the revenue perspective. So this is all going to help us do more out on our streets, which I will tell you there's an incredible amount of need out there to have those revenues to be able to apply to that. Next, I want to just focus in on something that we all know about, we've all heard about, is last year's the passage of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And it's got a lot of great programs in there. Some of them are augmenting existing programs and adding eligibility criteria to existing federal programs and adding money to those existing programs. But there's also new programs like the Safe Streets for All program that's in there that we're really excited about, partly because of what we had in issues here in Phoenix on road safety. And those kind of programs are going to help us address some of those things that we're very confident about that. So what I want to let you know is from our perspective, and so you might hear in a bipartisan infrastructure law is a big law and it affects a lot of different areas. But when it comes to the Federal Highway Administration, you may know that how those funds typically get distributed. You have your formula funds, which come down based on a number of factors to states. And you've also got discretionary funds that are left at DC and we go and compete for those at a federal level. But on the FHWA side, most of the formula funds go directly to the Department of Transportation, the State Department of Transportation. And they'll either use them to work on the highway network and the freeway network, or they'll distribute them to our Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MAG, Maricopa Association of Governments, to be able to distribute those out. So the long and short of that is there's not a lot of formula funds that come, there's no formula funds that come directly to the city of Phoenix out of that law. They're all going to be passed through the state and potentially through the MPO before we're able to compete with them. But for the most part, we're going to have to, as a street transportation department, compete at the regional level and most likely at the federal level for any of these funds, whether it's looking at major infrastructure projects or technology projects or complete streets projects. We're going to probably have to compete at the federal level. So we're going to have a lot of grant writing going on over the next 5 years to really take advantage and get our funding back. Anybody who's following this closely right now will know that there has been some guidance come out about the Bridge program, which is a new program So we're working with ADOT and MAG on that right now. There's some guidance that just came out last week about electric vehicle charging infrastructure and how that will be handled. And that's also something that the state's going to have a lot of work in to be able to define a plan for EV charging. And then the one that we've taken advantage of in the past is the RAISE grant, formerly known as the Build and the Tiger grant. That's a program that we have a grant application coming up here in April. So we're going to be very much focused on using the federal programs as best we can to leverage our needs here locally to address some of the things that we have identified as outstanding for the street transportation department. So that's something we're going to be very, very focused in on. And I will, to be honest, we're going to need help in writing grants. We can write some grants here at the City of Phoenix, but the level of grants that we think as these programs come out, we're going to be looking for help from the industry to do that. One thing I'll also focus in on as well that's been going on, and if you're following what's going on at the state legislature, there's some legislation going in there to help enable Maricopa County to work on extending its regional transportation tax or its regional transportation plan, which is right now is going to expire at the end of 2025. This is the half-cent sales tax that the region has. And so we have a number of programs within the life cycle program submittal right now within that tentative Prop 400 extension. So we've been working behind the scenes to identify our regional transportation needs to be able to make sure they make it into the Prop 400 extension plan as we go through. But we've got a lot more to go, but that's actually planning that the hope is that will go to voters this coming November for an extension of that half-cent sales tax. Then something that we haven't really talked about here at the City of Phoenix seriously about since about 16 years. So 2006 was the last time we had a GO bond program, general obligation bond program. And so I think with our new city manager and the coming in and having his ideas and thoughts and strategy goals, as well as how well we've seen things happen with the property tax levy and things like that, we're working on right now to be able to look at a general obligation bond program that we could potentially do every 5 years. So like we used to do, if you have a good memory, we had one 2001, 2006, but then the market tanked and the economy went down with the recession, and we haven't had one since. So our idea is to be able to have a bond program every 5 years. Normally, streets has had some element of that, but I know that there is a renewed focus. And so we're working right now on some ideas to be able to put into that program. And there'll be a lot more discussion over the coming months with council and others about what that program will look like and what will it potentially include. But I wanted to give everybody a heads up on that that's another source of revenue that we haven't had out there identified for a number of years. And then finally, I just wanted to get to a little bit here on our 5-year CIP. I talked about some of our revenue forecasts and projections. We just had a presentation back to our Transportation Infrastructure and Planning Subcommittee last week, where we had an item on there. If you want to look at the report, you can go back there and look at the report. But we presented the highlights of our 5-year CIP. Our current year is about $326 million. And if you add that number to our 5-year CIP through fiscal year 2027, it's about $1.1 billion. So because we're out of the recession, we're seeing a lot more of this, revenue growth that's become not just cyclical, but actually moving forward. And it seems very strong right now, that we're very confident that with the CIP going forward, that we're going to be able to start doing more than just maintaining our streets or upgrading our signals. We're going to be tackling a lot of things out there. I would highlight this road safety action plan, because when we go back to council, I know that's going to come with a price tag. And I know our council is very, very serious about how we address road safety out there. So I know there's going to be an allocation of resources somewhere in there that's going to have to happen to take addressing our road safety issues seriously. So that's a lot to put out there. And I thank you for the time. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. And I just wanted to, and I know I probably didn't cover everything you may have wanted me to cover. So please cover that with any questions you might have. I'll stop sharing right now.
Thank you, Kenny. That was a great presentation. Appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions for Kenny? I have one. When you said the safety plan was this fall, you thought you'd get that before council? And
Yes.
does the statistics, probably just the motor vehicle statistics, include your ADOT right away within the city, or is that just strictly City of Phoenix streets?
It's just strictly City of Phoenix streets. And one of the interesting things with the data we've done is we've actually segmented out a high injury network where we actually identified the intersections that have the highest issues and the roadway segments that have the highest issues. And so we have 1,200, traffic signals and signalized intersections across the city. We have 5,000 miles of city streets. And it's interesting when you look at a strong proportion of serious injuries and fatalities are happening at a very, very small number, relatively number of intersections and roadway corridors. So that gives us that focus there. But yes, the ADOT right-of-way piece is something that's exempted out of there. It will include some of the interchange numbers. So if there's any things that are happening in interchanges, we're factoring that as well because they are happening on city streets.
Great.
Kenny, I had a question. You mentioned stuff about the ADOT, or your coordination with ADOT and the bridge group and your bridge group. Is there any more information you can share on that, or a timeline? I know you're working through getting a new bridge and dam safety engineer.
Yeah, I know we've been working on filling that position. We're hoping. It's just been very difficult. Right now, aside from that position, I've got about 160 plus vacancies. So I'm about between 20 and 25% vacancy rate. So we're struggling to fill positions, which I'll tell you, put a plug out there right now, is we have an open assistant director position right now that we're recruiting and hiring for. So we'll be more than happy to steal anybody who might be qualified, or if you know anybody who might be qualified to do that. So there's more information on our website on that, but that's an assistant director position. It'd be a great position. We'd love to have somebody who's qualified and interested in doing something like that. But back to your question, related to the bridge program. So we've had conversation with ADOT and also at the MAG level. I've also had some conversations with FHWA. And what I understand about the bridge program is the amount of funds that are coming down. There is a portion of funds that are distributed by formula funds. And those formula funds, I think it's somewhere around $45 million are coming directly to the state of Arizona every year. There'll be a little bit of an inflator on that. I think about 15% of that $45 million has to go to rural areas or off-system bridges. And hopefully I'm not getting too technical here, but so there'll be off-system bridges. The remaining is for on-system bridges to distribute as follows. I mean, how they see, but I think the way that they structured at the federal level was to take care of the poor and fair condition bridges. And so those are the ones that they're going to be focused in on. We're already looking at our bridges and which ones classify or qualify in that category. So there hasn't been a lot coming from, yet, because everything's just kind of trickling out from the feds about how they will select those bridges. But we're going to be lobbying hard to ensure that our bridges are part of that as well. But I do know that aside from the formula funds, and I'll just be very candidly honest, there's discretionary funds, but I really am struggling to try to figure out how Arizona bridges, which we don't have the same kind of weather issues that you have back in the Midwest or the East, that how we could compete with them at a federal level and a discretionary grant for bridge monies at the federal level. I think we need to be able to focus on the formula funds that are coming in here to be able to get anything for our Phoenix bridges. But I know the ADOT team's working hard on this and trying to work out their plan on this, but obviously it's just, we're talking like matter of weeks since we've had some of the guidance come out on the federal bridge program. But I do know that the $45 million that we got here from Arizona is the minimum a state could get. And I think we had, I can't remember the exact number. We have a number of failing bridges that we have in the state. I think it was like somewhere around 132, which were poor condition bridges. And that's, that was just something they announced when they announced the formula monies that were going to each state.
Okay, no, great. Yeah, that's a lot of good info there. Appreciate that. Gives me, I bet everybody else here a little bit to chew on and digest. So thanks.
And if you're interested in the EV infrastructure, what I've been able to find out from that one is that the feds require the state departments of transportation to develop their EV charging infrastructure plan. I think the main thing is going to be focused in on the interstate highway network and making sure along the interstates and the major highways that they have charging infrastructure along those areas. But there has to be a plan that they have to put together by August, that they have to put together a plan and submit to FHWA for approval before they can even spend any of the EV infrastructure monies that come in on a formula basis from the feds.
All right, are there any other questions for Kenny? I have one more, Kenny. Is there a report available on the cool pavement? I'm a little interested in how, if there was any deterioration over time, or what the lifespan might be, because I know it's been a short program, but if there's been any work on that, it'd be great to start recommending more cool pavement to other municipalities and stuff. If it's really doing, that good, that's great.
So we have been contacted by a number of other municipalities about our product and what we're using. We, in all honesty, we stole some of our ideas from LA because they've been doing this for a couple of years, but we went straight to the product that looked to work the best for them, and it was an asphalt-based product. So that was important to us because, from a standpoint of you have to put something over the top of this later on, another treatment, we wanted to make sure that it was compatible with the material underneath it. So that was an important thing for us. But there is a report that was done, and I will make sure, I think it should be on, if you go to phoenix.gov/cool pavement, that has everything on there. I believe we've posted the report. If not, I will check to make sure it is up there, and then we'll get it up there. But that's just the first year of the program. And so that was mainly looking at a lot of the temperature details. They do have some elements of looking at the durability of it as well, but we haven't seen any major issues with the durability of the material, although we wouldn't expect necessarily to fall apart in a year. But what we're hopeful is, where a traditional seal coat might be 3 years, you get 3 years out of that thing, or maybe 5 years if you're really lucky. We're hoping that this may be 5 to 7 years that this might last, because you look at the cooler surface temperatures, that means it's absorbing less UV radiation. It's reflecting that off. And so that could actually help the seal coat itself last longer, not to mention, and we do have some data that shows how the temperature of the pavement actually underneath that, all down in the level of pavement, not just the surface itself, is less. So that means you have less heat issues with the asphalt that could break the asphalt down prematurely, or what we see normally with asphalt. But we are continuing to have ASU work on the cool pavement program, continue on into year 2 and further, to be able to identify exactly what you're saying, Chuck, is how durable this is. Because if it starts impacting our maintenance cycles, where we have a more expensive product, because the cool pavement product is a little more expensive. It's not as expensive as it was at the beginning of it, in comparison purposes. But if it starts being where we can extend out our treatments on some of these streets, that would be fantastic for us as well. I will tell you, the only thing I've noticed when I've gone out to some of the streets is where we've had reflective cracking coming up from the asphalt underneath, and that's not an issue with the seal coat itself. It's the pavement underneath, and we did our best to try to identify locations where we had fresh pavement in the last 2 years, so that we weren't going to have to go in there and do maintenance for a number of years, so we could leave it there and let it just do its thing.
Great. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much, Kenny. That was a great presentation. Appreciate your time. We know how busy everyone is right now, so we appreciate the hour we get to spend with you this morning. And with that, is there any announcements that anyone has? Eric?
Sure. Yeah. Nope. Also wanted to thank Keeney for coming today. It was a very good presentation, Keeney. And to kind of follow up on that, I know everyone is likely interested in a few upcoming projects. So I have that list of projects. One of them, Keeney alluded to in his presentation, the grant writing for the bipartisan infrastructure law. I'm working on getting that one out maybe this week, most likely probably next week it'll be out. I'm kind of tweaking the language a little bit to make sure that that we're going to get what we want. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be looking for quite a few firms to help us with, as Kenny mentioned, grant writing over the next couple of years to be able to leverage and get the share of funds that Phoenix is hoping to get. There's a water main replacement program, or engineering on call for the water main replacement program will be out. And all these next ones are, we'll just say, in the next month or so. So again, on call for the water main replacement, design services for some local drainage projects. Those will be ARPA funded projects. Some construction inspection services at Sky Harbor. So kind of that, I think we put that one out every other year. So that's just coming due again. And then we'll be water services department will be looking for a firm to do a risk model evaluation for their water main replacements. So to kind of update their risk model and how they're doing it to have that evaluated. So 5-ish projects kind of, I mean, there'll be more. Those are the ones that are generally the soonest to come out that we thought this group would be interested in.
Thank you. That is definitely interesting information. Any other announcements, Justin, from ACEC?
No, I think we're good for now. We're going to be certainly getting roads and streets, the committee back together here in short order. So be sure to keep an eye out for announcements on that one. And we currently have roads and streets scheduled for the end of September, and September 27th and 29th.
Can't wait.
28th, 29th, 30th, I think. It seems so far away, and yet it will be here so fast.
And Kenny just put in the chat the link to the Cool Pavement website. So if anybody's interested in that. All right, with that, we're ready to adjourn and appreciate everyone's time. Next month will be parks. I think we're working on the parks. That'll be the last Tuesday of the month. That would be, the 20, I think we did the 22nd on that one too, maybe the 29th. We'll have to take a look. But we'll get to hear from the parks director. I know they're another group that's very, very busy, as if all of the city isn't very busy right now. So, all right, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks, everybody.